In 23 seconds, the plastic container would slip from her hands, soup spilling across the hospital floor, and Maria would realize she'd just lost the only job keeping her family housed. But right now, at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday that felt like every other Thursday, she was just walking carefully, trying not to cry in front of the patients. Her husband, David, had been in room 304 for 6 weeks. The bills were piling up in ways that made her stomach hurt when she thought about them. The hospital had offered her a position in the cafeteria, minimum wage, but it meant she could be close to him, could check on him between shifts, could pretend she had some control over anything. The cafeteria manager, a woman named Gloria, who smiled with her mouth but not her eyes, had rules. Lots of them. No personal phone calls, no custom orders, no deviation from the menu. Everything portion-controlled, pre-packaged, calculated down to the gram. Maria followed the rules for 5 weeks. Then Mrs. Chen in room 412 asked her something that would change everything, though Maria didn't know it yet. "Can you make me real soup? Like from home?" Maria had been clearing her lunch tray. Hospital chicken broth. Gray. Thin. The kind of food that made being sick feel sicker. "I can't," Maria said. "That's not... I'll pay you. Please. I haven't had real food in 3 weeks. Everything here tastes like sadness." Maria looked around. Gloria was in the back office. The kitchen was running its usual chaos. No one was watching. "What kind of soup?" Mrs. Chen's face lit up. "Anything. Anything you would make for your own family." That night, Maria made chicken soup in her tiny apartment kitchen. Real chicken. Vegetables she chose herself. Cilantro. Lime. The way her mother had taught her. She put it in a plastic container, packed it in her bag with ice packs, brought it to work the next day. Mrs. Chen cried when she tasted it. Not sad crying, the other kind. She gave Maria $40, more than Maria made in 5 hours at the cafeteria. "Can you do this again?" Mrs. Chen asked. Maria should have said no, should have understood where this was heading. But David's medical bills were piling up, and $40 was $40. "Yes," she said. 3 days later, Mrs. Chen's daughter stopped Maria in the hallway. "My mother told me about the soup. Can you make some for my father? He's in 508. Then a nurse asked, then another patient, then a doctor who overheard. Within 2 weeks, Maria was making soup for 7 people, bringing it in her bag, delivering it during her breaks, getting paid in cash, in whispers, in the margins of her regular job. She was making more from soup than from the cafeteria. Not a lot more, but enough to notice. That's when Gloria found out. Maria was in the staff bathroom, counting cash, $280 for the week, when Gloria walked in, saw the money, saw Maria's face. "What is that?" Maria's mind went blank. She couldn't think of a lie fast enough. "I've been making food for patients. They pay me." Gloria's expression didn't change. "You're selling food in my hospital?" "Not selling. They ask me." "You're fired." Just like that. No conversation. No warning. Gloria walked out, came back with a security guard, and Maria was escorted from the building with her bag and her shame and $280 that suddenly felt like nothing. She sat in her car in the parking lot for 40 minutes, hands shaking on the steering wheel. David was upstairs. She'd been fired from the building where her husband was dying, or recovering, the doctors weren't sure which. And she couldn't even go see him because security had her badge. What people don't tell you about losing a job is how it makes you feel erased. Like you were never there. Like you never mattered. She drove home, didn't tell David, didn't know how to explain it. That night, she couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen's daughter. "My mother is asking for more soup. She said you stopped coming. Is everything okay?" Maria stared at that message for a long time. Then another text came. From the nurse. "Hey, did something happen? Mr. Rodriguez in 508 wants to know if you can make him soup this week. Then another, from the doctor. Maria, patients are asking about you. What's going on? She counted. 8 people. 8 people who wanted her food, who were willing to pay for it. She did math in her head. If she charged $50 per person per week, 8 people, $400 a week, $1,600 a month, more than she'd been making at the cafeteria. But she couldn't go back to the hospital. Gloria had made that clear. At 4:37 a.m., Maria made a decision that felt reckless but necessary. She texted everyone back. I can't come to the hospital anymore, but if you want, I can deliver to your homes. By noon the next day, she had 12 orders. Not just from hospital patients. Mrs. Chen had told her daughter. The daughter had told her co-workers. The nurse had told other nurses. Word was spreading in a way Maria didn't understand yet. She spent the afternoon buying ingredients, spent the evening cooking, made 12 containers of soup, packed them in a cooler with ice, delivered them the next morning, driving all over the city, knocking on doors, handing over soup and collecting cash. It took 6 hours. She made $600. She sat in her car after the last delivery, hands still shaking, and thought, this could actually work. But here's what she didn't know yet. Food businesses have rules. Lots of them. Health permits, kitchen inspections, food handler certifications, insurance, regulations written by people who assumed anyone selling food was doing it from a commercial kitchen, not a 2-bedroom apartment. The first real problem hit 3 weeks in. Maria had 28 regular customers now. She was making soups, stews, tamales, rice dishes, whatever people asked for. She'd quit looking for another job because this was bringing in more money than any job would. But she was cooking out of her apartment kitchen, 14 hours a day, barely sleeping, and her back was starting to hurt in ways that scared her. One of her customers, a woman named Sandra, worked for the city health department. Sandra had been ordering Maria's food for 2 weeks. Loved it. Told everyone about it. Then one day, she asked the question Maria had been dreading. Do you have a food license? Maria froze. I'm working on it. She wasn't working on it. She didn't even know how to start. Sandra's face went serious. Maria, I like your food, but if you're selling without a license, you could get in real trouble. I'm talking fines, legal issues. They could shut you down completely. That night, Maria tried to figure out how to get licensed. Called 6 different offices. Got transferred 11 times. Everyone told her she needed a commercial kitchen. She couldn't cook from home. Not legally. Commercial kitchens cost thousands of dollars a month to rent. Money she didn't have. Money she couldn't get without a loan. Loans required proof of income, credit history, business plans she didn't know how to write. She was stuck in the same loop she'd been stuck in her whole life. The system was designed for people who already had resources. If you were starting from nothing, there was no door to walk through. For 3 days, she stopped taking new orders. Just fulfilled the ones she had. Tried to think. David, from his hospital bed, he'd been moved to a rehabilitation facility now, was slowly getting better. Asked her what was wrong. I can't make this legal, she said. Why not? Because the rules weren't written for people like me. He looked at her for a long time. Then, so don't follow their rules, make your own. She didn't understand what he meant. You're trying to fit into their system, he said. But maybe the system is wrong. Maybe you need to build something they haven't thought of yet. That night, Maria started researching. Found out about something called cottage food laws. Different states had different rules, but there was a loophole. If you were making non-hazardous foods, sometimes you could operate from home with just a basic certification. Soup wasn't on the approved list, but baked goods were. Certain jarred items, dry goods. Maria pivoted. She stopped making soup, started making meal kits instead. Pre-measured ingredients, instructions, Customers could assemble and heat at home. Technically, she wasn't selling prepared food. She was selling ingredients. It was legal. Barely. But legal. She got her cottage food certification, cost her $200 and a home inspection. The inspector looked around her small kitchen, checked her refrigerator temperature, asked some questions, and approved her. She was legitimate now, sort of. Orders kept growing. 30 customers, then 40, then 53. But then the second problem hit. She couldn't keep up. She was cooking from 5 a.m. to midnight, every day. Her hands hurt, her feet hurt. She wasn't sleeping, wasn't seeing David except for rushed visits, wasn't seeing anyone. One night, she broke down in her kitchen, crying over a pot of rice that had burned because she'd fallen asleep standing up. Her neighbor, Teresa, knocked on the door. "You okay? I can hear you through the wall." Maria couldn't even pretend anymore. "I can't do this." Teresa came in, looked around at the chaos. Ingredients everywhere. Containers stacked to the ceiling. Maria's tiny kitchen looking like a war zone. "You need help," Teresa said. "I can't afford help." "What if I help you for free? Just until you figure it out." Maria stared at her. "Why would you do that?" "Because I'm retired, bored, and I can smell what you're making every day through the wall. I want in." Teresa started helping the next day, just chopping vegetables at first, then packing orders, then delivering. She didn't want money. She wanted purpose, something to do, someone to talk to. Within a month, 2 other neighbors had joined. An older man named Frank, who'd worked in restaurants his whole life. A young woman named Yesenia, who was between jobs and needed something flexible. Maria's apartment kitchen became a tiny, chaotic, unlicensed cooperative. Everyone helping, everyone getting fed. Cash split based on hours worked. It wasn't professional, it wasn't scalable, but it worked. 6 months in, Maria had 72 regular customers. She'd moved out of her apartment kitchen into a shared commercial kitchen space, a church basement that rented kitchen time for cheap. She had 4 people helping her now. She was making more money than she'd ever made in her life. But the real moment, the moment everything crystallized, came when a corporate catering company called her. Big company. Offices downtown. They'd heard about her through a customer. Wanted her to bid on a contract. Daily lunches for their staff. 40 people. 5 days a week. 20-week contract. The money was huge. More than all her current customers combined. But there were requirements. Liability insurance, a registered LLC, invoices, net 30 payment terms. They needed her to be a real company. Maria spent a week trying to become what they wanted. Filed LLC paperwork, got insurance quotes, started building invoices she didn't understand. Then, on a Friday night, sitting in her car outside the corporate office where she was supposed to submit her bid, she realized something that made her hands stop shaking. She didn't want this. The contract was safe, professional, stable. But it would mean dropping half her current customers. Would mean standardizing everything. Would mean cooking what they wanted, not what people needed. Would mean becoming just another vendor. She drove home, didn't submit the bid. Teresa asked her the next morning, "Why didn't you take it?" "Because I didn't start this to feed corporations. I started it to feed people like Mrs. Chen, people who needed something the system wasn't giving them." Teresa nodded. "So what now?" "We keep going. But we do it right." Maria restructured everything, made it clear this wasn't a business trying to get big. It was a service trying to stay personal. She capped customers at 100, kept prices affordable, hired people who needed flexible work, single parents, retirees, students. Word kept spreading, not through marketing, through people telling people, through the quiet network of folks who needed real food and couldn't get it from the options available. 2 years in, Maria runs a small meal service, makes enough to support her family. David's out of the hospital now, helps with deliveries. They're not rich, but they're stable. Sometimes people ask her if she regrets not taking the corporate contract, not scaling up, not becoming a real catering company. I did become a real company, she says, just not the kind they taught us about. What she means, but doesn't always say, is that there are two ways to build something. You can build what the system recognizes, or you can build what people actually need. Those aren't always the same thing. The soup that started everything? She still makes it. For special customers. For people who remind her of Mrs. Chen. For moments when food needs to be more than food. Late at night, when the kitchen is finally quiet, Maria sometimes thinks about that moment in the hospital bathroom. The shame of getting fired. The feeling of being erased. She thinks about how the worst day of her life became the doorway to the best decision she ever made. Not because losing her job was good, but because it forced her to stop waiting for permission, to stop trying to fit into someone else's system, to build her own. The money matters. Of course it does. Maria's not naive, but what matters more, what she didn't expect, is the control. The ability to decide what she makes, who she serves, how she works. She answers to customers now, but they're people she knows, people she chose, people who value what she does. That's worth more than any corporate contract. On quiet mornings, before the kitchen fills with helpers and orders and chaos, Maria stands at her stove and makes one container of soup. The same recipe she made for Mrs. Chen. Chicken, vegetables, cilantro, lime. She doesn't sell it, doesn't deliver it. She just makes it, tastes it, remembers. Because the most valuable thing she built didn't start with a business plan or a loan or permission from anyone. It started with someone asking for real food and her deciding to say yes.